Hi everybody. So how do you make your relationship work? How can you make your relationship work? This may sound cliched or may sound crazy to a bunch of people, but understand that your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, they are people. Okay? They are people. Your husband is a person. Something happens to our brain once we put a label on somebody. Okay, we lose sight of their humanity because they become a thing. They almost become a living representation of that symbol. Okay, so your husband ceases to be a person and becomes your husband. He becomes something that should reflect to you whatever that term husband means to you. Your wife stops becoming or stops being a human being. She becomes your wife, not a person. Your wife. Your wife then is a living representation of whatever in your mind a wife should be. Personally, I dislike the term husband and wife. I hate it because it removes the humanity behind the person who you call a husband. A lot of people see their spouses, that is my husband. In their mind, that is whatever husband means to them is what that person represents to them. Forget the fact that that person is a human being with a history, with a life, who deserves your compassion, your empathy, your humanity, who deserves to be seen as a human being, not as somebody fulfilling some role. Same thing with your boyfriend. Your boyfriend becomes your boyfriend and ceases to be a person. You start treating him as a boyfriend, not a human being. See, that's all the labelings we have put into our society that causes us to disconnect from each other, disconnect from the humanity of each other. I'm an ICU nurse. I've been an ICU nurse for 11 years. My patients are patients. It's a terrible thing that we do, but we have to do it that way because we cannot get emotionally involved with everybody. We're not going to survive. So when we say this is my patient, it's not a person, it's a patient. Once I call them a patient, I automatically emotionally disconnect from them because they're people, but they're patients. Now, it's a totally different thing for you to say that is a human being. That then forces you to acknowledge their humanity and then to treat them as humans. Doctors do it all the time. This is a patient. And then the patient reacts to the doctor as a doctor, not a person. They are doctors. Nurses and patients do the same thing to each other because we cannot get emotionally involved with each other. Okay, but we take that out and we play it out in real life. Where a woman has a man she calls her husband, the husband is not a person. He is my husband. And we don't understand how that disconnection is subtle, but it happens because then you stop seeing him as a person who has goals, who has feelings, who has ambitions, who has life, who has wounds, who has a past that maybe he hasn't healed. You stop to see the human in the person. You start to see the label that the person has become. You're my husband, you're not supposed to do that. You are a husband, you're not supposed to do this. You're a husband, you should come home on time. You're a husband or you're a wife, you should go for your husband. You're a wife, you should do this and that and the other. You're a wife, you should do this. You're my boyfriend, you shouldn't talk to that girl. You're my boyfriend, you should do this. How about the humanity of the person? How about the humanity? You're a human being and I'm going to honor you. How about that? You're a human being and I'm going to treat you with compassion, because the fact that you're a human being forces me to be in touch with my own humanity so I can relate to you on a human to human level. But once we have labels on them, they cease to be, we lose touch with their humanity. And so you have two people in a marital relationship, husband and wife, that is all they are to each other, husband and wife. And they're not even humans. The wife looks at the man as you're my husband and tries to use the confines of those labels, like what a husband should be, she uses it to evaluate whether the man is a good husband or not. Forget the fact that he's a person. We're not even talking about whether he's a good person. Like people talk about, he's a husband material. What the fuck does that even fucking mean? He's a boyfriend material. What does that mean? Is that a good human being? Are we even looking at the human behind the person? And so when you marry somebody who is a husband material, did you even notice the human behind the person? Did you notice the soul in the person? Did you ever look in their eyes to see their pain and their hurt? Did you do that? And so when we get into a marital relationship, or we get into a relationship, we're relating with two people who are simply the embodiment of the labels we have placed on them. They're not people to us. Okay? So for your relationship to work, the person you are with has to be a person. That's why I don't like the term husband or wife. I don't even like the term boyfriend or girlfriend. I prefer, he's my man, I'm his woman. Or my favorite is he's my male and I'm his female. He's the male part of me, I'm the female part of him. That forces you to acknowledge your humanity and forces you to acknowledge their own humanity. He's the male part of me. Okay, so for your relationship to work, you gotta start looking at the person as a human being, not as somebody fulfilling your label, whatever that label is. Husband, wife. We do that with our parents too. That's my mother. That's not a human being. That's my mother. My mother is perfect. My mother is infallible. That's my mother over there. She's not a human being. My dad died 20 years ago. My mother can't my mother can't date somebody else. My mother can't lie. My mother is infallible. She's a superman. She's my mother. Same thing with our fathers. Our fathers are infallible. That's why the wound of a father or a mother goes so deep, because the disappointment happens at the soul level, because we expected that they were perfect. That's my mother. My mother is an angel. She is perfect. She is not human. So we put all these labels, and with all these labels, we disconnect from the humanity of the person that we are with. If you want your relationship to work, start looking at the person as a human being. If you can't call them your male or female, look at them as a person. His name is John. Who is John? Who is John? Her name is Nancy. Who is Nancy? What is Nancy about? Who is this human being? Or who is this soul behind Nancy? Who is this person? Relate with that person. Remove the labels. Stop looking at them as the fulfillment of your own need. He's my husband, so he should feel whatever in my head that term husband means. That's why your relationship is not working, because you're not relating to them as human beings. You're relating to them as things. Human beings that fit your label. Don't do that. Because ultimately, both of you are going to be so disconnected from each other. Both of you are just going to be two empty shells existing without true connection to each other. And that's why relationships appear not to be working. Okay, that's a human being there. Relate to them as humans.